Hey guys, how's everybody doing? I hope everybody's well. Hope y'all had a great weekend. We are here on JK's 1010. We're up to get it wrapped up. I think I'm going to make just a few more tweaks. Mainly just give it a little more ignition timing. I've been kind of inching up on it, seeing how far I can go without the saw acting up, but I think I can go just a little bit more from where it's at. The last advance I done, it was just minimal, but it made a daylight to dark difference in the saw. Some of those electronic ignition chips you get need a little bit of ignition advance, but I think we're just seeing all out performance gains here from it, if that makes any sense. It knocked a lot of time off of the time to cut. Probably something like 15% or more, so we're going to go back into it here, and I'm going to fall just a little bit more away and put it back together. And I've got 2 tanks run through it. It's been re-ringed, new seals, but you know, the bearings are, you know, just the stock bearings that were in the saw or on the crankshaft that I put back in it. I did reuse his PTO bearing, but we used the bearing that was on the crankshaft and piston assembly that we put back in the saw. Ain't as easy as just changing the piston on these. I guess if you had a new one. Most of the ones I've took apart the piston or the bearings in the piston, they've got bearings that are pressed in the piston on the sides, and the wrist pin is actually pressed into the connecting rod, like on your old small block Chevrolet or something, or most any other automobile engine. But most of the ones that I've tried to press apart, the bearings fell apart in, or just it didn't go over too well. Just be the method I was using, but it's just one of them deals. If you're going to press piston off a rod on one of these, I'd recommend having at least a new set of bearings laying around to go in it. I think the only company that makes an aftermarket piston for these things is Little Red Barn, and I'd just highly suggest staying away from any piston that they sell. We'll just say had a bad experience, but I do have a saw here I put a lot of time on. It's a pretty badass saw that has one of their pistons in it, but I do plan on tearing it down and putting a 272 piston in it. That would be my Farmer Tech 372 kit saw. Let's see, guys. I've got another little video I may or may not throw together. I don't know, but I'll show the way where I mount the chips in these. I think everybody mounts them there when they do one of these saws. And on these 1010s, normally once you break the flywheel loose, they're usually pretty easy to get back off afterwards. Usually doesn't take much. That one I might have to pick on just a little bit. She has good compression, as you can see. See if my hammer's laying here somewhere. We have a lot of projects coming, some repairs, other builds. Probably more than I'll ever get done. Some of them we have to get done, but others of my own, it doesn't matter if it takes 2 years down the road to get to them. We have content planned. Channel's doing good. It's kind of crazy. You wake up one morning and have like 100 extra subs. Never thought I'd ever see that. Making a little more money than normal, but not quite what I would like it to be. It's enough I can pay my water bill with it, but you have to hit $100 threshold in a month before they send you a payment. So sometimes it's 2 months. The last payment I got was over the course of 3 months before I got a payment, and it wasn't what you would think. So those of you that are worried about being monetized, you know, I had to watch hours like at 600 subs that I needed to be monetized, but is where I built the channel off of longer form content. But seemed like when I looked this morning, right at 500 subs in 28 days, over 400,000 views, something like 3,500 hours of watch time, and I think like $53 in 28 days. So, you know, you ain't everything it's cracked up to be. I know some of you guys can pump out a 20-minute video every day. I just can't fit that in. It is what it is. If I could, I'm sure we could double that revenue, but in the short form content don't pay shit. You'll see shit all over YouTube saying, oh, they're about to monetize shorts. Well, if you upload on your PC, you can go ahead and check the monetization tab there. I know on mobile it's a pain in the ass to get monetization set up on a video. I always go right to the computer right after and, you know, click the boxes. And I have a video's got 220,000 views and it's made a whopping 1 cent a short video. So unless something's gonna change at the beginning of the year to where we get more for shorts, they're good to build your channel off of, is about it. And it has carried over. So what I need to do now is I need to go over here, and you can file these, or I've got a wore out tile cutter bit on my Dremel handpiece, and that's what I use to file these keyways out in the flywheel. I'm gonna run over here and do that, and I'll bring you guys right back. It is getting to be a tight fit in my little shop. I've got 2 other places lined out that I can start putting some of this stuff. Let's see what that gave us, guys. Oh, we got a lot of slop in it now. Hopefully we don't go too far. We'll know if we do. If you got one that goes to popping and cracking in the cut and you can't tune around it, a lot of the times your timing's a little too high. Can you get too high? Maybe. Guys, I have some beautiful plants I'd love to show you guys. I know some of you'd have interest. YouTube just don't care for it. But people can talk about some of the craziest shit in the world on here and most vulgar stuff, but I can't show video of some plants that grow naturally. That is it. That's an ignition time in advance. We didn't move it real far at all. But you can see she got some compression. It ain't the easiest thing in the world to spin over. The check valves in this, we've been over that. They do bleed off and leak off a little bit. It's not that big of an issue. It just, when you go to restart it, you need to wide open throttle the thing. Or I started it the other day on the high idle and it seemed to do okay. But he's aware of it. He knew it was hard to start before he ever sent it here. Be cool if we could get a good aftermarket carb for these things. You noticed I said a good aftermarket carb. I'm just going to take those screws out until a lot of times they'll drop right down in there and they're like a tapered screw. Really hard to find. Had several saws that, you know, I'd bought and got here and they were missing those. These things are like an old hardtail motorcycle or something. You have to keep things tied on them if you're going to use them in production any at all. or anytime you take them out and use them at all, I'd recommend going over any visible bolt, any visible screw, and just going over it and making sure it's tight. This one was missing a handful of screws when I got it here. Not really nothing major, like it was missing one out of the front of this starter cover. Right here, I didn't have the exact bolt, but we got one in it. It's better than nothing. A lot of these are specialty bolts like these I'm putting in now. Like the one that would go in here, it actually goes into a coil bolt. And you know, a lot of people don't want to fool with these, and a lot of that stuff's the reason. But I can get a hardware kit. I've bought them off eBay where people tear saw down. And if anybody's got one of these junked that they want to let go of cheap, or do some trading on with something else I might have here, just let me know. I've got PayPal. The best way to get a hold of me is the email. It's on my about page. But sometimes I miss emails, or they get cluttered up and all the other garbage that comes to email. But I'm running low on 1010 parts. I'm going to make sure that it goes down over that shroud. It's the same shroud goes around, but you want to make sure that everything kind of cinches down there good and over top one another. And another thing, in the cut videos on this that I showed, I didn't even know it. I was in a hurry when I finding a bar. Well, I found a bar and just didn't pay attention to it, but the rails on that thing just looked horrible. Here I am putting the wrong screw in the wrong hole. That one goes over here. That's one that was missing I had to find. It takes a little bitty short one. If you try to put a long one in, it will go in against the flywheel, and that's the one on the back side over here. It will go in against the flywheel, and you will not be able to pull your saw over. Ask me how I know. Ain't my first rodeo with these. Honestly, I probably work on, as bad as I hate to say it, more of these than most people on YouTube. A couple other guys dabble with them, but I've had my hands on a fair share of the 10 series saw. A fair share. Like I said, I can tell you where any screw or bolt goes that comes off of the damn thing. Rings finally have tried to seed on this. It barely has any blow by at all anymore. It'll just keep getting better and better, but I know he ain't gonna use this thing for production work. Not many people do. I think he's talking putting 325 on it when he gets it home. We were talking about that on the phone. It would make it a whole different animal. I had a what is it? Not a timber bear, but the same exact saw, 605. I set it up. I took the holes for my MS250 bar and ground it out to go on it and put a 325 sprocket on it. And that saw, it was just an 18-inch. That saw had a little port work done to it. It was a bad dude. Like, no joke, it cut really fast. It didn't last very long, but I don't remember what happened exactly. Seemed like it was just that piece of junk carburetor that comes on them, and something else happened. I ended up junking the saw out. I needed parts for other better saws, and some of the parts on those will interchange with these, like your clutch, and the bearings and seals are the same. The ignition coil, you just have to shorten the coil wire, which ain't no big deal. It'll bolt right on the later Promax saws that actually have the electronic ignition. But I'm going to pause you guys, and I'm going to get my gas jug. I've got to go open a door so we don't kill ourselves with carbon monoxide. And we're going to see how this thing cold starts this morning. Alright, fellas, we're back. Got the door open. And Josh, this paint is fuel resistant. I wouldn't recommend just like letting it sit and lay on it. Most people know that any paint's not fully cured until like a month. That's why they recommend you not wax a new paint job for a month. The paint on this thing's pretty good. It ain't perfect. We wasn't going for show quality, but if a man wanted to set with some 1500 or 2000 grit and color sand the shit out of it, and then maybe if you had a mini buffer, wanted to buff it back out, you could make a damn near show finish on this. There's like little dimples and places in it. Whatever, you know, it ain't no big deal. It's a power saw. The paint on them wasn't perfect from the factory, but you got a spin around of it. It does indeed look really good, and it should last. There's several coats of the epoxy on it, and that epoxy sits up hard as a rock. And then 2 coats of urethane clear on it, which also sits up pretty hard. You'll know when it's on because the switch was in the off position when I painted it all. Let's not choke it and see if there was any. I did run it dry fuel the other night, so I know it's not going to do nothing when I crank it. Alright. I always do that, this series of saw, just to make sure that the carb's not bled off a ton of fuel in the case. This one does do that. You can grab it, it'll fire first pull, and if you're quick enough before it dies out, you can get the choke out and keep it running. But I'll go over what all we've done to it here in a little bit once we see how she starts up and runs this morning. I may lean it out a little bit, and I'm going to go back over the chain. I had just a work chain on it, and go over the rails on that bar and see how fast we can get this thing to cut a cookie. She is sucked dry. Like I said, the rings have been continuing to seed on it. That's a good thing. Usually when you get a good hone laid in on the cylinder, they don't take long. And Josh, when you take this cover off, just watch that screw. His bracket, he said he didn't even know that it was supposed to be one solid piece, but most people don't. These air filters are something hard to find. That one looks like it's seen better days. Seen a lot better days. When I got this thing, the stud on his bracket was just like hanging loose, and it damn near fell down in the carburetor when I took the saw apart. But I tried to tack it back into place, but it just kept burning through, so I had another one here we put on it. I didn't want to send it back home the way it was. I had changed muffler. His muffler, it was all but rotted out in the bottom. It wasn't completely rotted through, but you could about push your fingers through it. And I had this one laying here. It's an old reed muffler. I just left the reed in it. On these, it's not restrictive. I think it gives them a cool sound. We come here and opened up and made a fish gill just coming right off of the port. Really easy to do with this series of muffler. It's not restricting it any at all. People think the muffler on these has them restricted. It doesn't. It's a pancake, but it's an open can. It's, you know, they're a low compression saw. They need a little bit of back pressure anyway. I'm sure someone will disagree. That's just fine. It'll be okay. Let's see. And these are a pain to tune. You gotta kind of dial it in a little bit, put your air filter back on and see if it's right, especially if they're ported. It makes it worse. I mean, you're moving more air flow through, and they're never gonna act like a modern saw. So if you've got one and that's what you're thinking, it's just never gonna happen. I recommend if you're gonna fool with these, you better know a little bit of something about saws. This carburetor does bleed off a little bit. I've fooled with it. I don't have a kit that has the check valves to put back in it. And honestly, I've never went that far over the course of... I started fooling with this stuff when I was like 14 in high school. That's when I had the schooling for it. If that tells you anything, I'm going on 43 now, so... yeah, we've been messing with them a long time. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to lean it out a little bit here, just a little bit, like a 1/16 of a turn, and I'm going to lean it out on the high jet just a little as well, and we're going to put the air filter back and cover back on it, because it does richen up when you do that. I think that's why a lot of the actual saws deemed a professional or whatever it was had the adjustments on the outside of the body where you could had the longer stems on the carburetor where you could actually go in and adjust. Kind of a poor design to have to pull the airbox cover off and then tune the carburetor, put the airbox cover back on, and like I showed that most of the screen's still there, but the flocked material's all but about gone off of that, which means it's not filtering very well at all. I wouldn't recommend running it the dull chain at all to where there was any fines. But the way these are made, it's getting all of its air from these fins down here, and that's about it. They benefit a lot from putting a V-stack on them or drilling a bunch of holes in the top cover, and then they go looking like garbage. But it'll probably show it here, but I'm going to wide open it just because I know it's going to be a little floody when we go to start the saw. Bled off a lot, guys. It's not a good thing. That's the problem I'm having with this saw. It bleeds so much fuel back off into the crankcase. Damn thing don't even want to start back up after you've ran it a little bit. Sometimes it fires right back up. Other times, like right now, she is flooded to death. That gets to be a pain in the ass. You let it sit and cool completely off. You already see the plug being wet, how wet it is. We'll crank it a few times. Take our hose to our plug and hope it starts up. I just want to see what I'm dealing with here. And I don't think it's leaking off past the Welch plugs or anything. They looked seated really good. I've checked all of that. It's not popping off past the needle valve, which still wouldn't let it go into the case if it was, I guess. But let's see what she does now. She is not wanting to fire. I'm going to leave all this in the video and just show why a lot of people don't like fooling with these vintage saws, and that we're not perfect here. And it's a lot of the reason he got my saw back here to me, and I've not got this one done and shipped back home yet. I'm willing to bet with the air filter off of the saw, whew, it fires up. This is a horrible design. It's just, they really should have come up with something different than that. I mean, you've got this little bit of space above the carburetor to where the choke flap comes up and rests against that, and you know, that's all the area it has to pull air in through. The newer ones, it's got the plate over top of them. I don't know that it's any better or any worse, but you know, as people say, these saws were ahead of their time. Well, no, they wasn't. They were about what you would have expected, but there's actually only one man says, oh, they were ahead of their time. And I'm not down on him. Everybody loves him. Hell, I still watch a lot of his stuff, but these saws ain't what a lot of people make them out to be. They can be a nightmare, just little stupid stuff like that. What I've done is kind of bubbled that up a little bit, but as soon as I tighten this cover down, and if you've got one that's floody any little bit at all, it's kind of like it's got the choke activated just because of the air filter alone. So Josh, if you have a problem with it like it just done, pull the air filter off. Now let's hope it starts back. It is not going to run today with the air filter on it. One of you guys that somebody explain that mess to me. I've seen it happen on one other saw, and I don't even, and you guys seen it fired up cold start with these. All I can figure is that it's sucking the top of that air filter down and causing the thing to choke out a little bit. Let's see if it'll fire just with the cover loose. Just like it is flooded to death. That's exactly what it's doing. I know there's nothing that I've done in the engine causing that, because I've done a lot of these the same way. And this one was done pretty damn mild, to be honest with you. You'll have to forgive that crazy shepherd for barking. She loves to bark. The only thing I know to do is cut the high jet off a little bit and see what happens. We'll start it up and adjust it from there. That's kind of how I had it the other day when I done the first test cut videos. Had the low jet as far in as it would go and the saw's still running and be responsive, but I like to leave these things a little rich, but here in this situation that's not going to happen. Okay, let's see how it does now with the air filter back on. And when I said they're a pain in the ass to tune, this is exactly what I'm talking about. And it seems the newer carburetors don't have this issue. It's only this older one. I really wish I had one of the newer carbs that come on the Pro Max that the jets are actually angled on. I don't know the model numbers on all those things. It's still a Walbro SDC, but the jets are different. The only other carb I have here, I have a single jet carb here in that style that was on my Pro Max 55 originally. I could swap it onto it and it wouldn't do none of this. So, you know, maybe if one of you guys has a one of those carbs and wants to donate it to them, you know, y'all may do so, I guess. But it's mainly these older ones are the only ones I've seen do it. The one I done all the cutting videos with a week or two ago, it's kind of the same way, but it's not as bad. It'll be a little boggy when it starts, but I bet with it leaned on out, I bet it fires right up. So if you've got one and it's doing that, your low jet's too rich. I probably took it in half a turn. I don't know where it was at, but I'm assuming it's probably around somewhere between 3/4 of a turn out. And a lot of this stuff don't show up until you rebuild the bottom end, put new seals in it. And when you port them, it kind of makes them even more of a pain to tune. But I just kind of wanted to show that. But it's sounding about right where I would want it up top. It's probably around 12.2 or something. You know, they'll rev on up into the 13s, but that PTO bearing just doesn't want to live long there. If you're just cutting cookies, they're fine, but if you're cutting big wood or cutting firewood, I recommend just leaving them blubbery rich. You can go a little lean with them, but let's see how it starts back there. I don't want to go out back and have to do all of that and it not start up, but let's see what she does. Flooded to death, guys. Yeah, guys, this is just kind of some of the stuff we deal with on these. I've got a ProMac 1010 up here that runs great. I'm half tempted to pull the carburetor off of it and stick on this thing. If this was my own saw, I wouldn't care a bit that it's doing this stuff, but one I'm going to send out of here, I don't know, guys, I just can't do it. I've talked to him on the phone, and you know, he knew it was kind of a pain to start, but seemed like he said the starting issue he was having was when it was cold. It was a little hard to start here cold this morning because it was empty of fuel, and I didn't put a lot in it there. We still probably got a quarter of a tank, it looks like, but again, I bet when I go to fire it, same thing. Just a pain in the ass. Let's pull the cover and see where exactly it's at on the jets. But some of them can be a nightmare. That's why a lot of people don't want to fool with them. But I think a lot of the culprits is piss shit air filter set up that they put on the saws. It's running great with the air filter off of the saw. Like I said, I've had another saw do this and it about drove me crazy. Let's see where the jets are at on it. A little aggravating. I think it's why they went to the metal plate on the top of the other carburetors. And no, it will not fit. It'll bolt on physically, but half a turn, 3/4 of a turn, that's not enough. That's why it's idling funky and dying. Half, one, about 1 1/4 is where they're usually happy. We was half, 3/4 on the high jet. Half, 1. That's usually the sweet spot on these, somewhere between 1 and 1 1/4. I know everybody's probably like, well, you're the Mac man. I can pull them down, port them, and get them back running, but when we have issues like this, I'm just like any of you other guys. Fuel's good, that's for sure. Like I said, they can be a pain in the ass, but I'm half tempted just to go get that saw that I know is fine and pull the carburetor on it and stick on this thing. But I'd already talked to him about maybe trying to put a 272 carb on it. I'd seen a fella, I don't know what kind of problems he was having, but he had adapted and put a 272 carb on it. It's got a little smaller Venturi, but it's not enough to matter. These things are over carbed anyway, a 1010 is. I see some people saying they've got to drill them out. I don't know. I've never had that issue. I've had 70cc saws here that would 4-stroke at 14 grand and not have to drill the carb out, so I don't know. Let's see if it fire back up. I don't know, guys. See the spit and fuel everywhere. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause you guys and we're going to try another carburetor that I know is not going to do that. And if it is acting up and doing the same thing, well, we're going to tear this thing down, go back into it and see what's up, because it's still spitting. When it fired there, I had my hand over the top and it covered my hand and mix, so I don't know, don't have anywhere near the blow by that it did, but I don't know, something's up with it. But I'll bring you guys back once I figure something out. Well, guys, I think we're fixed, I hope. It's starting first pull. I swapped the carburetor. I just went and grabbed the old 55 off the shelf. I knew that carb was good. It's one of the newer carbs, and put on it. And with the air filter off, it'd pull back first pull. But let's see what it does with it on it. One more time. You guys seen how hard it was to start. Like I said, as builders on these vintage ones, it's just stuff we deal with. It's good to have extra stuff laying around. Like I said, I can run that carburetor and it's not going to bother me at all. I rarely run these things any at all. I'll take them out every now and then, cut a little wood, make a video for you guys, but something I'm sending out of my shop, it ain't gonna happen. I would have dug around. I found one to buy, or like we just done. I'm sure he's gonna say it was totally unneeded, but I sent him a saw up there that was borderline blown up. The top end was scored. It had no compression. Luna, her shepherd's wanting on video. She loves to bark. And he sent me back a damn strong running saw. So, you know, there's that. I didn't want to send one back that acting that way, but I'll probably meet you guys back out back. My daughter's over here working out next door, and she's got video, or not video, but music playing that YouTube's not going to like. So we're going to hit the pause button here. And when I get my bar and chain dialed in and get out back, I'll bring you folks back. Well, guys, I've got the bar dressed and I retouched up the chain, put some different angles on it. We'll see what happens here, I guess. Carb first pull with no wide open, no high idle or anything. Turn it on. That is a lot better than it was, guys. I'd say I'm gonna run what's left of this tank of fuel out, and you know, he'll have to retune it once he gets there, but it's updated to the newer carburetor. If you've got one that's doing that, it's best just to upgrade it. I can't guarantee that that carb's gonna last and not start doing it. See how it starts back. Guys, I think she's ready to clean up and send back home. Man, if you ain't happy with it by any means, just let me know and send it back. And you know, that's the kind of person I am, and we'll make it right. But as always, this video probably way too long, but as always, thank everybody for watching. Y'all stay safe. Everybody have a great day.